At 2:17 a.m., the building went quiet, and the first scream was a notification tone. My phone lit the ceiling with a cold blue light. Unknown caller, then another, then 20 more in a row. Alarms stacked in my inbox like storm waves. A message with one word, urgent. Another with a face I knew too well, cheeks pale under fluorescent lights, eyes wide. His mouth was moving, but the clip had no sound. A boardroom behind him. The city below them, still and sleepless. I watched all of it from my couch, barefoot, a throw blanket around my shoulders like a shield, a cup of herbal tea cooling on the table. The oddest thing is, when everything you built starts to shake, you expect panic. You expect your pulse to race and your chest to tighten and your hands to tremble. Mine didn't. I just breathed. I listened to the house settle. I heard the rain tick the window, and I waited. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because you're going to want to remember where you were when this happened. People always imagine revenge as fire and flashing lights. They think of shouting. They think of someone hitting a big red switch with a wicked smile. But real revenge, the kind that writes itself without you lifting a finger, looks like stillness. It looks like stepping out of the way and letting gravity do what gravity does. It looks like walking away from a house with rotten beams after you warned them for years the beams were rotten. And tonight, at 2:17 a.m., the house creaked. The first message I opened was from Tyler, our head of We'll Fix It Later. Not his real title, of course, but it could have been. He wrote, "It's down, everything, we can't reach you, please pick up." 3 dots, then nothing, another bubble. "We tried the backup, it's not working, the dashboard says legacy mode." What does that even mean? Another clip. The intern, the one who replaced me, stood in the background pretending to look busy, fingers on a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. I watched them hustle. I watched them whisper. I watched them pull their sleeves up and call my number 10 more times, as if my voice carried the power to put a building back together by sheer will. For almost 3 years, it did. For almost 3 years, they handed me messes, and I turned them into maps. I came in before sunrise. I stayed while the moon rose and sank and rose again, drinking bad coffee and writing simple steps no one read unless something broke. I stitched 100 small systems into one strong net and taught them how to walk across it without looking down. Then someone decided the net didn't need the person who wove it. I set my phone down and counted the spaces between my breaths. 4 in, 4 out, 4 in, 4 out. On the TV, the news quietly looped a story about a city arts grant. The anchors smiled. Somewhere across town, in a room with too much glass and too many echoes, those same smiles were gone. There's a moment right before a storm when the air gets sweet and heavy. You taste metal. You smell rain before it hits. You know something is coming, even if the sky pretends everything is blue and harmless. I felt that moment for months. I knew they wanted to look like heroes. I knew they wanted to cut costs and clap themselves on the back and say, "We streamlined." I knew they wanted to make an example of someone. I didn't know they would pick me, but when they did, I was ready. Do you know what it's like to be told you're too essential? They say it like a compliment, and your chest warms, and you think they see me. Then they lower their voice and say, "We can't promote you because we can't afford to lose you where you are." They call it a dead end while smiling. They rebrand your ceiling as a gold star. So you stay because you care. You stay because people are kinder to you than the company ever is. You stay because you promised yourself you would leave things better than you found them. And you do, until one day you're sitting on your couch with your tea cooling, watching them discover how breakable the world becomes when you take your hands away. They say the building went quiet because the monitors did. The boardroom screens froze mid-graph. The numbers that were supposed to climb and glow and make everyone look smart turned into a wall of gray. Gray is honest. Gray says, "I have nothing to show you." Gray says, "Call her." They called again. They called me by my first name, then the less familiar version of my name, then please. They said they knew I didn't owe them anything. They said they knew what happened was unfair. They said things they never said before because people don't say the right words until the room is burning down. I didn't answer. Not yet. This isn't the part where I brag that I flipped a switch and everything broke. I didn't. That's the point. I didn't touch a thing. I didn't pull any plugs or flip any breakers or whisper passwords into the wind and watch them vanish. I simply stopped doing the invisible work that kept the lights from flickering. I took my name off what was mine. I closed the doors that were my doors to close. I sat down, and when I sat down, they finally saw the chair. My tea had that little film on top that happens when it cools too long, like the surface grew a skin. I wiped it away with the spoon and thought about the kid in the boardroom trying to look like he knew the answer. He wasn't the villain. He was a kid, eager, smiling, told he could do the job I did after 3 weeks of copying and pasting my notes. He didn't betray me. He didn't hire himself. People think this is a David and Goliath story. It's not. It's a story about walls that look like windows until you press your hands to them. The rain tapped faster. The phone buzzed again, then stopped. Then again. A number I hadn't saved. A name that made my stomach shift. Martin, the founder. The man who once stood on a folding chair with a paper cup and thanked us with tears in his eyes. He called me now at 2:24 a.m. and I saw the future bending like heat above a road. I let it ring. Maybe you think I'm cold. Maybe you think I should have saved them anyway because that's what good people do. Maybe you're right, but good people also draw lines. When someone breaks your trust in broad daylight, they don't get to ask you for flashlight batteries at midnight. I leaned back, the couch sighed, the city exhaled, and a small, tired smile came to my face because I knew this wasn't a collapse, really. It was a reveal. The truth was walking out in a plain black dress, no frills, no lipstick, no apology. The truth would sit in their chair, too, and cross her legs and wait. But to understand why that chair was empty, why the room was full of fear, why my phone lit the ceiling and I did nothing but watch the glow, we have to go back. We have to talk about a promise and a hallway and a screwdriver kept in a pencil cup. We have to talk about the year no one celebrated my birthday because the launch ate the calendar. We have to talk about the first day I walked through a door and felt that electric hum that happens when a thing is being built and you want to belong to it. We have to talk about what I made and how they forgot. The first time I saw the place, it was 3 rooms pretending to be an office and a kitchen pretending to be a cafeteria. If you stood still, you could hear the building breathe through the vents and the hum of old lights. There were mismatched chairs and a wall of sticky notes that tried very hard to look like a plan. It smelled like dry erase markers and hope. I fell in love with that smell. I was 26 and good at making sense out of messes, even if my job title didn't say that yet. Officially, I was operations coordinator, which meant everyone handed me the things they didn't want to think about, and I found a way to make those things hold hands without fighting. I liked it. It felt like solving a puzzle that mattered. Where do the orders go when they come in? Who talks to the clients when the clients are scared? How do we make sure we don't promise what we can't keep? Those were my questions, and every day I found answers you could actually use. That first week, I noticed the little rituals people had to work around because the tools weren't there. The sales team used a shared inbox that ate emails for breakfast. The support folks had a spreadsheet that no one trusted. Martin, the founder, and his co-founder, Jane, handed me a binder with, "We'll fix this one day" on the cover. I opened it. Half the pages were blank. The other half were lists of lists. I didn't complain. I rolled my sleeves. I brought in a box of pens and a small potted plant that I named Dot. I taped a paper sign to the empty cabinet above the sink that said "Mugs live here now," because somehow people thought mugs were migratory and kept leaving them in the bathroom. I made space. That's what building is at first. It's not grand gestures. It's not billboards on the highway. It's a drawer where forks go so people can eat and stop being cranky at 3 p.m. It's a document that tells the truth and stays simple. It's a calendar that doesn't lie. It's a voice saying, "We're going to be okay," and then making sure that voice has a plan to make it true. I set up a simple flow for customer requests that didn't require a miracle. I drew it on the wall with a fat marker. Ask, answer, follow up close. I wrote the follow-up scripts myself in plain English, no fluff, no per my last email poison. People relaxed. The support inbox stopped swallowing messages like a hole in the ground. We tracked what broke and why it broke and how we fixed it so it wouldn't break again. Nothing fancy, just care. Care scaled. When our first big client signed, I stayed late 3 nights in a row to make sure their onboarding was clean. I called their project lead at home and walked her through what we did and what we didn't do and what we promised to learn if we didn't know yet. She thanked me, and the next morning she sent a box of pastries. I cut them into quarters and put them on a plate with toothpicks so everyone could have a bite. The sugar made us brave. The praise made us stand straighter. We grew. The sticky notes on the wall became a real project board. The 3 rooms became 5, then 6, then a floor we shared with people who didn't say hello in the elevator because they were busy being important. The kitchen got a smoothie blender that sounded like an airplane taking off. We got branded mugs that said, "We make it easy." I looked at those mugs and nodded. Yes, we did. Somewhere in the middle of all that, my job title changed to systems lead, but I didn't notice at first because I was busy doing the job anyway. The old spreadsheets grew into simple tools with clear names. The handshakes became checklists that no one laughed at because we all knew they worked. The tiny alarms that used to go off all day got quieter. We could hear ourselves think. There was a moment I keep replaying because it's the kind of moment that builds a person. It was a Tuesday, a year and a half in, and one of our earliest hires, Amelia, who laughed like an orchestra warming up, leaned against my desk and said, "You make it feel like there's a floor under us." She didn't know I went home crying the night before because I worried I was failing everyone. She didn't know I fell asleep whispering to myself, "You can't carry the building. You can only carry your end of it." Still, she said that, and it sank into me like sunlight. I wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it to my monitor. When the screensaver came on, I could still read it. Floor under us. Yes. Martin noticed too. He would stop at my desk with a paper cup and say, "We're lucky to have you, Lena," and I would smile and say thank you and go right back to making the invisible visible. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. I didn't have swag or sizzle or a tour of awards to show off at Friday all hands. But when someone new joined and asked how the place worked, people pointed at me. I trained them, one by one at first, then in small groups in the conference room with the awful pink light that made everyone look seasick. I taught them the way a teacher teaches because I believe in leaving no one behind. I used simple words when everyone else tried to sound impressive. I told them stories. If you say yes to a client without checking the calendar, you're really saying no to the person who has to fix it later. If you don't write down how you solved it, you didn't really solve it. We're not magicians, we're builders. Builders are honest. People would nod and put their pens down and say, "That makes sense," and the building became a little less haunted by chaos. We had stumbles, of course. We blew a deadline and had to send apology cupcakes with handwritten notes because the printer broke at the last second. We had a day when the power went out, and I ran around with extension cords like lasso ropes to keep the freezers from thawing because we still had food service clients back then. I once found a leak above the hallway and stuck a mixing bowl under it, and every time it filled I emptied it with a flourish and bowed. People clapped. We laughed. You can laugh when you trust the people around you. I built a lot of trust. Here, what else I built? A way to check our health without guessing. A dashboard, the most boring word in the world I know, that showed what mattered and hid what didn't. Green meant good, yellow meant watch, red meant fix right now. I designed it so you didn't need to be a wizard to understand. I kept the colors soft because panic helps no one. I named things clearly, not Module A, not Client Sync 3.1. I used human words. Orders, messages. Deliveries, payments, promises. That last one made Martin laugh. Promises? If we remember them, we keep them, I said. He stopped laughing. He looked at me for a long time and nodded. Sometimes you can say a thing so true it goes quiet. We hired Tyler around then. He came from a place with glass doors and strict dress codes and a habit of making everything sound urgent. He brought that with him at first, and I watched as he tried to outrun fires with a hose that wasn't connected to anything. One late night, I sat him down with a slice of pizza and walked him through our map. Not the fancy map, the real map. Here, what breaks and why it breaks, I said. Here, how to know before it happens. Here, who to call when your hair is on fire so they can stand with you and hand you water. His breath slowed as I talked. He laughed at himself. So this is how the magic happens. It's not magic, I said. It's muscle memory. That was the key. I didn't hold secrets. I taught. I documented. I cleaned my tracks so others could walk without tripping. It wasn't about being the hero. It was about building a place where no one had to be one. Ironically, that's what made me too essential. When the muscles I built were working, people forgot the exercises. They forgot the effort. They looked at the calm surface of the water and decided the lake could take care of itself. By year 3, we had investors who wanted shinier things. We're ready to scale, they said, and my skin prickled because people use that word the way kids use glitter. They throw it on everything and then act surprised when it sticks to their shoes for months. A consultant with perfect hair came in, walked around with a notebook, and told us our org structure was inefficient. He said we needed to streamline. He glanced at me like you glance at a lamp you've had for years and think, maybe it's time for something new. That was the first ripple. The second was a new face in finance, polished, calm, careful with her words. Paula. She liked to say numbers never lie. I like to say people do. She smiled at me without showing her teeth, and I felt a chill. We love what you do, she said. We need to do it with fewer people. I looked at the map on the wall and thought, if you cut the ropes, you don't float, you fall. Then came the board meeting where my name sat on a slide as a key man risk, which is a funny way of saying, if she leaves, we're in trouble. They called me that and then asked me to cut my budget. They asked me to hire a junior, train them, and then reevaluate. I asked them what reevaluate meant. They changed the subject. That was the third ripple. Ripples become waves when wind pushes hard enough. In the middle of this, I met him, the intern. He came in with a backpack too big for his shoulders and a smile that showed all his teeth and a hunger to prove himself. His name was Noah. He reminded me of my younger brother when my brother used to disassemble radios just to see if he could put them back together. I liked him. I liked the way he listened. I liked the way he said, I don't know, without flinching. I promised myself I would teach him the right way, slowly, kindly, without throwing him into deep water. I didn't know then that someone would point at both of us and say, why have both when one will do? But I felt the wind change. The sticky notes on my monitor curled at the corners. The plant on my desk, Dot, started to lean toward the window like she knew something outside was calling her. The hallway felt longer. Meetings felt shorter and colder. Words like efficiency and redundancy and bench and resource floated in the air like gnats you can't swat. Still, I worked. Still, I believed. Because believing is what builders do. We imagine the floor under everyone's feet even when someone is trying to rip the boards out and sell them for parts. One night, on my way out, I stopped by the conference room with the bad pink light. It was empty. In the glass, my reflection looked tired but steady. I held up my phone and took a picture, not of me, but of the wall behind me where I had taped the map we lived by. I don't know why I wanted that picture then. I think part of me knew I would need to remember what it looked like before someone tried to repaint it with glossy words. So that's how it was before. That's who I was before. A builder, a teacher, a quiet force, a woman who believed in drawers for forks and maps for messes, who loved the smell of whiteboards and hope, who put floors under everyone's feet and never asked anyone to thank her for it. And then the first real crack. It didn't look like a crack. It looked like an email that began, quick update before the weekend. It looked like a calendar invite with too many people on it. It looked like a grin from someone who is about to say something they know will not land soft. I remember blinking at the subject line, my finger hovering over the trackpad, feeling that heaviness in the air again, the sweetness before the storm. I clicked. The email said, quick update before the weekend, which is what people write when they're about to make your Monday heavy. I clicked. It was a calendar invite with too many names. Martin, Paula, Tyler, the consultant with the perfect hair and the empty notebook. 2 board members I only saw when there was a performance to be done. Subject line, org realignment overview. Realignment, such a gentle word for moving bones. All weekend, the air tasted like a storm that wouldn't admit it was a storm. I did what I always did when I was nervous. I cleaned. I cleaned my inbox. I cleaned the kitchen. I wiped the whiteboard in the conference room with the pink light and rewrote the map so clean you could read it from the hallway. I drank water and told myself the truth. You can't stop a tide with your hands, but you can keep your footing. Monday came. The room was too bright. Paula had her smile on, the one that showed nothing. Martin held a paper cup like a shield. The consultant opened his laptop as if a laptop could bless a room. Thanks for coming, Paula said. I'll keep this brief. People only say they'll keep it brief when they've already decided. We're moving into a growth phase, she began. To support that, we need efficiency. We need fewer blockers. We need to reduce key person risk. She looked at me when she said it and then looked away so fast you'd think I glowed. The slides clicked. Boxes moved on the screen. Arrows pointed to other arrows. The consultant spoke in a voice that sounded like a podcast you forget as soon as you stop listening. "We've identified opportunities to streamline the system's function," he said. "We want to decentralize ownership, empower teams, and reduce redundancy." He smiled at me like we were in on a joke together. "We're piloting a new model," Paula said. "We'll have an intern shadow the system's role for a few weeks to document and automate. Then we'll redistribute tasks. It's going to be great for you, Lena. You'll be able to focus on strategy." Strategy is what they call it when they want you to stop touching the tools. I kept my face calm. "What does redistribute mean?" I asked. "Tyler's team will pick up operational elements," Paula said. "You'll oversee the roadmap. The intern will help with automation. We'll reevaluate in a quarter." Reevaluate, another soft word with hard edges. Martin cleared his throat. "We trust you," he said. "You've built so much, this is just growth pains." I nodded because what else was there? I felt the room tilt a little like a boat catching wind. "Two things," I said, my voice steady. "One, we can't use the free versions of some tools for what we do. We've talked about this. It's not just about features, it's about compliance. Two, if you decentralize without real training, you don't get empowerment. You get panic." "Totally," the consultant said, writing nothing in his notebook. "We'll manage change." Paula flashed that non-smile. "We need you to document everything. A full playbook. We're calling it Resilience Week." She clicked to a slide with a big, bold title. There was a checklist under it. It was my work wearing a new outfit. I could have argued. I could have stood up and pointed at the wall where my map lived and said, "This is the playbook." But I've learned this. When people are holding a story they like, they don't drop it because you point to a better one. They have to see their story fall apart first. "Okay," I said. "I'll write it again." The next few weeks became a test I didn't ask to take. The intern, Noah, started spending more time at my desk. He brought questions like pebbles, small, smooth, honest. "Why did you name that Promises? How do you know when to escalate? What does red feel like?" I answered all of them. I told him the truth. I told him that red feels like a knot in your stomach and a cold in your hands and a voice in your head that says, "Fix it without breaking anything else." He watched me work. He wrote things down. He tried not to look scared when the consultant invited him to a meeting without me. I watched him come back from that meeting with wide eyes and a new false confidence. Someone had told him he could do this. Someone had pointed at my job and said, "You're next." Tyler was a weather vane in all this. He spun toward whoever was speaking loudest and hoped he'd face the wind. One night he messaged me, "Hey, small change, I want the dashboard to report to ops now. We'll keep you looped in, of course." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. The dashboard that showed Promises had kept us honest for years. It wasn't mine, not really. But it had my fingerprints. I typed slowly. "We can share ownership. But if you remove me, you remove the person who knows where the cracks are. That's not a threat. It's physics." He sent a thumbs-up emoji and a sentence with my least favorite word. "We'll be agile." The budget meetings got colder. I sent a purchase request for a license renewal we'd planned months ago. Paula declined it. "Can we use the community version for now?" she wrote. "No," I replied. "We do commercial work, it's a breach." I attached the vendor policy. I highlighted the line that said, "Not for production." I added a note in plain English. "If we use this, we're lying." She didn't answer for 2 days. When she did, it was with a new meeting. "Let's chat." We sat in her office with the glass walls that made every conversation feel like a museum exhibit. She folded her hands. "We need to show savings," she said. "Just for a quarter, then we'll upgrade." "Promises don't work that way," I said. "If we promise a client their data is safe and we cut corners, we break more than a rule. We break trust." "Everyone does it," she said. "Everyone also apologizes later," I said. "I'd rather not rehearse that speech." She sighed. "Fine, find savings somewhere else." So I did. I shaved a little off our cloud spend by deleting things we didn't use. I found 2 subscriptions we'd outgrown and canceled them. I made a list called "If You Want Me to Sleep" and put every known risk on it with dates and dollar amounts. I sent it to Paula. to Tyler, to Martin, to the consultant who never took notes. I printed it too because paper sometimes feels more real. In the margin, I wrote by hand, "This is the floor, don't pull boards." A week later, there was a Friday all hands. The slides came out, the jokes, the clap for the sales team's big win. The consultant took a bow for architecting a new operations model. They gave a shout-out to Noah for building an alert script I had drafted and asked him to demo it. He looked at me nervous and I smiled and nodded. He did fine. Everyone clapped. Tyler high-fived him. Then Paula said, "This is what happens when we empower new talent." She didn't look at me, but I felt the message on my skin. After, in the hallway, Amelia hugged me. "I see you," she whispered, "even if they pretend they don't." I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. The fluorescent lights hummed like bees. Then came Resilience Week. It wasn't a week. It was a small lifetime packed into 7 days. I wrote a playbook so clear a stranger could have used it. I made videos walking through steps, my voice calm and slow. I drew arrows. I added red boxes that said, "Do not skip." I wrote a section in big letters. What to do when you do know what to do. The answer, tell the truth, ask for help, don't make it worse alone. On Thursday, Paula messaged me. "We'd like you to take PTO next week. We want to see how the system runs without you. Don't worry, we'll call if we need you." There it was, a test dressed like a gift. I cleaned my desk on Friday. I watered Dot and told her not to miss me. I handed Tyler a printed copy of the playbook because he still lost track of emails. I looked at the map on the wall one more time and thought about floors and how people forget they're standing on one. Then I left. I went to my mother's house by the lake and sat on the porch and watched the water remember how to hold the sky. My phone stayed quiet for 2 days. On the 3rd day, it lit up in the afternoon. A question from Noah, a polite one, nothing urgent. "Where do you check if the backup's sent?" I told him. He thanked me 3 times. The next day, a photo of the team at lunch. Smiles. I exhaled. Maybe the test would pass. Maybe the house would stand. Maybe the proof they were looking for was that I had built something that could hold. But proof is a funny thing. It works both ways. When I came back, there was a new invite on my calendar. "Check-in," it said. The sender was HR. The time was ASAP. The location was the glass room. The description was blank. I sat very still. I looked at the edges of my desk where the wood had splintered under years of cups and elbows. I thought of the intern's backpack and the consultant's perfect hair and the way Paula said efficiency like a blessing. I clicked accept. And I knew. "You ready?" Amelia asked from the doorway, her face careful. "I'm always ready," I said. My voice didn't shake, but something inside me did, like a string pulled too tight. The storm I had been smelling for months finally checked the map and found my street. What do you say when the door you built leads you out instead of in? You breathe. You walk through it anyway. The glass room was colder than usual. HR was already there, sitting with her notebook open to a blank page, even though the words had been written long before we walked in. Paula sat next to her with her smile on like a mask. Tyler hovered by the window, staring at the city as if the city might offer him an escape route. Martin wasn't there. "Thanks for coming, Lena," HR said, folding her hands in a shape that was supposed to look kind. "We wanted to talk about the org changes." I sat down. I placed my palms flat on the table to feel something solid. "Okay," I said. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, but my voice sounded like normal. I was proud of that. Paula began. "This isn't easy," she said, though she'd practiced the words in the mirror. "We've decided to eliminate your role as part of the realignment. We appreciate everything you've done. Truly." Appreciate is a flower people lay on a grave, so they can feel generous about the burial. HR slid a folder across the table. "This outlines your separation," she said. "There's a severance package based on your tenure. It's contingent on a complete handover, credentials, documentation, vendor contacts, and a 2-week transition period where you'll be available to train your replacement." I blinked. Replacement. "We're moving forward with a junior systems associate," Paula said, as if announcing a weather report. "Noah has been doing great work. He'll continue under Tyler. You'll help him get up to speed." There it was, not a surprise, still a sting. It's funny how unfair things can be and still be predictable. I looked at Tyler. He stopped staring at the city. Our eyes met. He gave me a half smile that said, "I'm sorry, but not enough to do anything." "Where's Martin?" I asked. Paula glanced at HR. He had a conflict. Of course he did. I opened the folder. The paper smelled like every other exit I'd seen in my life that wasn't mine. The terms were clean. The numbers were neat. There was a paragraph about returning equipment I never took home, and a paragraph about confidentiality, and a paragraph that sounded like a warning dressed as a whisper. I read every line, because reading is respect even when respect is not returned. "When do you want this to happen?" I asked. "We'd like to announce today," HR said. "We can have a brief handover this afternoon, then 2 weeks of transition. We'll need your admin credentials now so we can start migrating ownership." I closed the folder. I took a breath. This is what it means to be a builder. Even when the building asks you to leave, you care about the frame. But caring doesn't mean collapsing. "I will hand over everything the company owns," I said. "Cleanly, with documentation. I will not hand over anything that isn't yours, my personal accounts, my personal numbers. The tools I paid for while we were testing because you refused to approve a card. I will remove my credit card from any vendor it's attached to. I will provide a list of everything I remove with dates and contacts so you can replace them. I will not be on call. If you want consulting after my last day, we can sign a contract at my rate." Paula's face twitched. "What rate?" I told her. It was a number that made HR's pen stop moving. "We're a startup," Paula said, as if that excused everything. "You're a company," I said. "You pay for what you use, you should start now." Tyler cleared his throat. We can figure it out." "We will," I said. "Because I've already written the playbook. I'll add to it. I'll make it so clear Noah could teach it to someone else. But I won't pretend that an intern can carry what I carried in 2 weeks. That would be cruel to him, and to you." HR nodded like a metronome. "We appreciate your professionalism." "Don't," I said, and then softened my voice because anger is easy and I wanted to be better than easy. "Just do the right things on time. Replace the licenses. Pay the vendors. Don't lie to clients to save face. If you do that, this will be as smooth as exits go." I signed what was mine to sign. I asked for a copy. I asked for a letter stating I had no non-compete. HR printed it. I waited while the printer did its slow hum, thinking of all the documents I'd printed in that office with different kinds of weight. When I stood, Paula stood too and extended her hand. I shook it because manners are also a kind of boundary. "We will always be grateful," she said. "Gratitude is a verb," I replied. Her smile froze. I walked out and found Amelia waiting in the hallway with eyes that said she already knew. She hugged me so tight I could taste salt. "I'm so angry," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Me too. But don't burn for me. Keep your fire for yourself." Noah appeared at the end of the hall, pale, clutching his notebook. His backpack strap had twisted, and he didn't notice. He looked at me the way people look at the sky when they realize the weather is not up to them. "I'm so sorry," he said, voice small. I put a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't do this," I said. "You're not the villain in a story you didn't write. You're going to get pulled into deep water. When you do, remember, you can say, 'I don't know.' You can ask them to slow down. You can ask for help. You can protect yourself." He nodded, eyes shiny. "Will you, can we, I mean, during the transition?" "I'll teach you," I said. "For 2 weeks, then you stand." The next hours were a blur made of edges. I sent a short goodbye note to the team with no drama in it. "I'm proud of what we built," I wrote. "Take care of each other. The floor feels better when people don't jump on it." People came to my desk all day with sticky notes and memories and cookies someone had hidden for emergencies. I gave Dot to Amelia because Dot loved her more. In the afternoon, I began the handover. I opened the admin portals. I made a list called keys and another called doors because it helps to remember that credentials are just keys and permissions are just doors. I transferred what I could. I removed my name where it didn't belong anymore. I deleted my credit card from a vendor portal that still had it saved from a time when Paula wouldn't approve a test, and I rolled the dice on my own account for a week. I screenshotted the removal. I added the vendor's contact and the instructions to add a corporate card. I wrote, in bright red, "Replace by date. Service will downgrade to legacy mode if not updated." That was a true sentence. I knew the date. I had given it to Paula 3 times. I put it on a post-it attached to her monitor once. I wrote it again now in the playbook so big it yelled. In the training sessions with Noah, I kept my voice slow and kind. We walked through the map like 2 hikers checking a trail before sunset. "If X breaks, check Y first," I said. "If a client writes urgent with 5 exclamation points, breathe, then ask them to send details, then ask your team for help. You're not alone unless you pretend you are." He took notes fast. His handwriting got messy at the edges where fear lived. I asked him to pause. "Look at me," I said. "You can't be me in 2 weeks. You shouldn't try. You can be you. You can care. That will get you far." He laughed shaky. "I'll try." The days ran like water. HR asked for my badge inventory. I returned a laptop that had so much of my life on it, my hands lingered. I moved my files with ritual respect, nomming folders for the people who would need them. "Tyler, Amelia, Noah." I left notes inside notes. I left breadcrumbs. On my last day, there was no cake. It was better that way. Martin texted me a long message about timing and investors and how proud he was of me. I stared at it for a full minute and then wrote back one word: "Thanks." You can't fix a person's choices with a text. He knew, I knew. We left it there. Before I handed in my badge, I went to the little storage closet we called the server room because the router lived there like a small, stubborn animal. I turned on the light. The labels I'd put on cables years ago were still there, written with the label maker I loved like a small toy. The hinge on the cabinet still squeaked. I pulled open my drawer, the one with batteries and tape and aspirin for people who forgot to drink water, and slid my screwdriver to the back. I wrote a note and taped it to the inside, for whoever cares enough to fix what squeaks. Symbolic, maybe, but I've learned symbols matter. I walked out. I gave HR my badge. She said, "Good luck," in a tone that sounded like she was clearing her throat. I stepped onto the sidewalk, and the city air for just a second felt like fresh water. I stood there with my box of small things, my mug, 2 pens that actually worked, a postcard from a client who had once written, "You saved us." I looked up at the building and felt both lighter and not at all. On the bus home, my phone buzzed with LinkedIn notifications. Someone had updated the org chart. "Thrilled to announce Noah has stepped into an expanded role supporting operations. He's going to do great things." There were balloons and claps and emojis that looked like confetti. I scrolled with a numb thumb and then put the phone face down and watched the city pass by like a movie I wasn't in anymore. At home, I set the box down and sat on the floor because sometimes chairs feel too formal for grief. I didn't cry. I was past crying. There's a quiet beyond tears where you just catalog. Who called? Who didn't? Who meant it? Who didn't? What you did right. What you'll do different next time. I thought about all the times I had stayed late so someone else could go home. I thought about the binder labeled "We'll fix this one day" and how I had built the day. I thought about the word "replace" and how it sounds clean and feels like sand in your mouth. Then I stood up. I washed my face. I made tea. I opened my laptop and created a new folder called After. Inside it, I saved copies of the playbook, my emails about licenses, my calendar notes with dates and warnings. Not to hurt anyone, not to plot anything ugly, just to hold the truth in one place. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't just take, it teaches. Not every lesson is welcome, but they're all useful. I slept that night like someone who ran a marathon inside their mind. In the morning, I woke up and didn't reach for my work phone. I sat on the porch and watched the sky turn the soft color of a bruise healing. And somewhere downtown, in a boardroom with too much glass, someone was telling themselves a story about how they had streamlined. A week later, I checked my personal calendar and saw the renewal date in small, calm letters. I breathed. I closed the calendar. I didn't send a reminder. I had already sent 3. I had already left the steps. I had already circled the day in red in a playbook that lived on their desk. People say revenge is doing something. Sometimes revenge is doing nothing. And then, at 2:17 a.m., you already know what happened next. Before that night, I made a plan, not the kind with fireworks. The kind with a calm list, 2 clear columns, and a promise to myself at the top. I will not set a fire. I will let the truth turn on the lights. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, wrote the date in the corner like a school assignment, and drew a line down the middle. Left column, will do. Right column, will not do. Will do. Return everything that is theirs, completely, cleanly. Remove my name, my card, my tufa, my fingerprints from every door. Send one last clear document with dates and steps, written like a map, even if they refuse to read it. Set boundaries in writing, hours, rate, how to reach me, what I don't do anymore. Tell the truth once more, with receipts, and then stop talking. Will not do. Pick up midnight calls without a contract. Patch anything from the outside. Be anyone's secret safety net. Throw Noah under any bus. He didn't build the bus. He's just standing near it. Speak bitterly. Bitterness is a weight you carry even after the party is over. I stared at the 2 lists until the words got soft at the edges. Then I wrote one more line at the bottom. Revenge is just a mirror. Hold it steady. Let them see. It sounds simple. It was, because love gets in the way. Not love for people who made choices they won't admit, but love for the thing you built. It's hard to let go when you know you can save it with a day and a half of work and 3 difficult conversations. It's hard to stand back when every part of you is trained to step in. So I made it harder to forget my own plan. I taped the paper to my fridge. I set a lock screen on my phone with 3 words, protect your peace. I put my work bag in the closet like a box of old letters you're not ready to read again. Then I wrote the letter. Not a rant, not a threat. A page of truth, plain and kind and sharp as a clean edge. Martin, I began, because I wanted the voice of the person who once stood on a chair with a paper cup. You told us once that honesty is our oxygen. I held you to that. This is me breathing. I listed the things that mattered. The license renewals with dates and what would happen if they lapsed. Not doom. Not everything breaks. Just the real picture. Certain automations would turn off. Alerts would stop sending. The dashboard would switch to legacy mode. Manual checks would be needed every day at 6 a.m. to avoid delays. I listed the vendors and the contacts, underlined the ones that required a company card by policy, and noted where my card had been a temporary bridge during testing when finance said, not now. I wrote, as of my last day, my card has been removed from those bridges. Replace them before date. I've already shown Paula and Tyler this list 3 times. This is not new information. I'm sending this because I care about the clients. Then I turned the mirror a little. You asked me for efficiency. Removing institutional knowledge isn't efficient, it's expensive. But it's your choice to make. I am not your enemy. I'm also not your shield. If you want my help after my last day, here are my terms. A written scope, my rate, daylight hours only, and my right to say no. I ended the letter the way I end hard things, with a soft truth. I'm proud of what we built. I hope you protect it. Floors need care. They don't hold themselves. I didn't send it right away. I printed it and put it in an envelope. I wrote his name by hand. I set it by the door where my keys used to hang when life was always on call. I knew if I waited until the feelings passed, I'd water it down. It didn't need water. It needed weight. Next, I made a smaller letter for HR, a practical one. This is to confirm that I have returned all company property, transferred credentials per the attached checklist, removed my personal payment methods, and no longer have access or authorization to any systems. Any access that appears to remain is a vendor lag and should be removed by your admin. I will not be available for unpaid support. Short, dry, final. Then I made a list of the vendors one more time, because lists are how I keep my heart from running ahead of my head. The alerting tool that watched our systems and whispered early warnings like a faithful dog. The backup service that quietly saved everyone from their own mistakes. The messaging bridge that tied our app to the emails our clients relied on to sleep. The dashboard service with the promises tile that kept us honest. Next to each, I wrote the date, the contact person, and what legacy mode actually meant in real life. No auto exports, capped alerts, reports that looked alive but didn't update unless someone clicked twice and held their breath. From far away, fine. Up close, cracks. I thought about the way Paula said, everyone does it, and felt a tired kind of anger. Everyone also spends months rebuilding trust after they cut corners. Everyone also loses the quiet people first, the ones who stop fighting and simply leave. I wrote that in the margin for myself. Don't be available to be used. Be available to be hired. That night, I called my mother. She listens like a window open on a spring day, wind, birds, the smell of something green. I told her everything in the simplest words I could find. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Take care of your name. You can always build again if your name is clean." I promised. I told her about the letters. I told her about the plan to not answer after midnight. She laughed, soft. "You used to set your alarm to go help people fix their printers at 2 a.m. I did," I said. "I'm done with that chapter." "Good," she said. "You're not a fire department, you're a builder." The next day I texted Noah. Not advice, not instructions he could get in trouble for following, just this, "You okay?" He sent back, "I'm trying." I wrote, "Remember, you can say I don't know. That's honest, that's allowed." He wrote back a heart and then, "They really think I can do it all." I typed and deleted 10 things, then sent, "Do your best. Document what you learn, take breaks, eat." It felt like telling a kid to tie his shoes before a race. After I set my boundaries, I did something small but important. I made a little website with my name on it. Just a page. Consulting, systems, calm in storms, daylight hours. It felt strange to market myself as the thing I did in the dark for years, but I wanted a door people could knock on instead of pounding on my personal phone like it was the emergency exit. Amelia called that night. "I'm going to miss you like the coffee machine misses water," she said. We laughed, then her voice shook. "Will you be okay?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. "Are you?" "I don't know," she whispered. "Then say that," I told her. "Say it to someone with a budget." The plan sat on my fridge. The envelope rested by the door. My laptop sat closed like a book you finish and place on the shelf with a pat. For the first time in a long time, silence in my house sounded like peace and not like the pause before another alarm. Here's the part people don't like: waiting. A plan like mine doesn't explode. It unfolds. It needs time. It needs choices made by people who want to look brave in front of a slide. I gave them time. And I gave myself something I had not given myself in years: a day off. I walked to the lake. I stood at the edge and let the wind pull tears out of my eyes I didn't know I was holding. I felt relief and anger and pride all braided together like rope. Then I went home and moved the envelope from the door to my bag. I mailed it the next morning. My first moves were not dramatic. They were small locks turning, lights switched off, labels peeled from drawers. I started with the vendors. I brewed coffee, took a deep breath, and logged into each account that had ever touched my name. Not as a saboteur, as a former admin cleaning the kitchen after a long party. Alerting tool, I opened the billing page. My name sat there like a sticky note. I clicked remove payment method, watched the spinner circle, and saved the change. I added a note in the account profile. Billing contact updated to ops at company with the date. I liked giving the next person a breadcrumb. Then I sent a polite email to their support team. "Hi, I'm no longer with the company. I've removed my card. Please ensure future notices go to ops at company. Renewal date is date." Legacy mode details attached. I attached their own policy PDF. People respect their own words more than yours. Backup service, same. I removed my card, updated the contact, and sent a note. Renewal on date. If not updated, scheduled restores are paused. Data remains safe, but manual steps are required. Safe, not scary, just true. Messaging bridge, this one took longer. The vendor required a second admin to confirm changes. I didn't have that anymore. I filed a ticket. "I'm departing admin. Please replace my 2FA with a company admin. I no longer have authorization." They wrote back with the usual, "We need confirmation from an active admin." I forwarded the chain to Paula and Tyler with the subject line, "Action required, complete ownership transfer." I kept the body of the email simple. See below. "I am not authorized to complete this step. Please assign admin and remove me by date." I used their own vocabulary. I added a line in bold. If not done, message queues will cap at 10,000 day under legacy. Clear, not dramatic, countable. Dashboard service, I logged into the place that held our promises. Even the login page made my chest warm. I checked the plan. Month to month now, no more annual discount. I could hear Paula's voice. Flexibility. Flexibility is expensive when it's repeated. I opened settings. My card was gone good. The contact address still had my name tagged. I changed it to ops at company. I left a comment in the audit log because the software allowed little notes. Updated contacts per departure. See playbook page 14 for renewal dates. I took a breath. I clicked sign out. The page went gray and small and then disappeared like a room with the lights off. It felt like leaving a house after a breakup, turning off switches, touching the doorframe one last time. Not pain exactly, more like respect. Then I wrote one email to Paula and HR and Tyler, with Amelia BCC'd because she deserved to know when to duck. Subject: billing ownership transferred plus renewal dates, final. It looked like the way I like to read things, clean and obvious. Body. Team. As part of my offboarding, I removed my personal payment methods and updated billing contacts to ops at company for the following. Alerting, renews date. If not updated, alerts cap, automations pause. Backup, renews date. If not updated, scheduled restores pause, manual restores still possible. Messaging, admin reassignment pending your response to vendor ticket number. If not completed by date, message queues cap at 10,000 day. Dashboard, month to month. Dashboard switches to legacy mode if payment fails. Data remains, auto reports stop. Attached are vendor policies and contacts. I will not retain access or make further changes. For consulting support, reply with scope and we can discuss terms. I wish you well. Lena. I read it twice and hit send. A clean line closed behind me. Then I handled my phone. I changed my voicemail. You've reached Lena. If this is about the old company, please email me at my consulting address. I respond during business hours. If this is an emergency, contact their support. I set do not disturb for everyone except family and 2 friends. I gave myself permission to sleep. I built my rate sheet, a single page with 3 options, a 1-hour consult, a project block, or a short retainer. It felt weird at first, putting a dollar amount next to a thing that used to be a favor. But money is a boundary too. It tells the world where you begin and end. Then I mailed Martin's letter. I walked to the corner in my coat, the envelope warm from my hands. The mailbox stood there like an old blue friend. I slid the letter in and listened for the soft metal swallow. I stood for a second longer, fingers on the cool edge, and thought, there. I'm done being haunted by the draft I never send. On my way back, my phone buzzed. A text from Paula. Quick question, where do we see the billing for the alert tool again? My thumb hovered. My chest tightened. I pictured my plan taped to my fridge. Will not do, be anyone's secret safety net. I opened my laptop, copied the link from the playbook I'd given her, and pasted it into a reply. Page 9 of the playbook. For consulting support, happy to help during business hours. Please send scope. She read it. 3 dots. Disappeared. No reply. There, I said. The breath before the morning. The investor with the initials cleared his throat. Forgive me, he said, but why wasn't this prevented by our new model? I looked at him in the quiet way you look at a person who has never held a hammer. Because models are ideas, I said, and floors are made of wood. You have to cut, sand, nail. You can draw a floor plan on a napkin and still fall through the boards if you don't respect what holds you. I softened my tone. You can fix it, but not with a slide. He nodded, this time not as an investor, but as a person. Understood. Paula spoke next, and her voice was different, no varnish, just wood. I made those calls, I pushed the budget down the road, I said everyone does it. That was careless, I'm sorry. She turned to Noah. I shouldn't have asked you to swim without a life vest. He blinked fast, he nodded. The apology landed where it needed to land. I watched it all and felt something unclench in my chest. I didn't know I'd been holding. Good, I said. Let's put that into action. We wrote the after plan, short, sharp. Licenses restored to the correct tier with annual plans to save money without surprise. Renewal dates on 2 calendars with 2 owners. A 15-minute Monday ritual. What changed? What didn't? What did we learn? No blame, just look. Access rights audited. 1 admin per tool is a bus ticket to chaos. Training for ops and anyone who touches the bones of the building. Not a one-off. A monthly muscle memory session. Vendor budget line item protected from experiments. You don't save money by skipping breaks. We pinned it in their chat. We sent it to their email. We printed it. Yes, on paper, because paper whispers back, don't forget. Then came the moment that would decide the shape of the future. Stay, Martin said, or come back full-time, any title you want. He put his hands up like surrender. I was wrong. We hurt you. We need you. The grid went very still. Even the digital air seemed to hold its breath. There was a time when those words would have sent me running back with open arms because I loved the building more than I loved myself. That time was over. I'm not coming back full-time, I said, and my voice was gentle. I don't belong in a place that taught me my warnings were noise. That won't be good for me or for you. But I will help you rebuild the right way if we agree to certain things. Anything, he said too fast. Not anything, I corrected. Some things. I listed them. Simple, non-negotiable. A paid retainer for 3 months. Daylight hours. Defined scope. We can renew if we're both happy. Immediate restoration of compliance on all tools, with receipts sent to the board. A written acknowledgement to the team that leadership chose cost over stability and that we're correcting that. No cloudy phrases. Use the words, we chose. We learned. Protection for Noah. He will not be blamed in any forum. He will be trained. He will get a mentor who is not me. Ops seat at the table for real decisions. Not as a courtesy, as a rule. If you talk about floors, invite the person who knows wood. Paula nodded, Tyler nodded, the investor with the initials nodded. The consultant with the perfect hair said, "This is a shift," and I said, "Yes," and nothing more. Martin took a breath that came from somewhere honest. "Agreed," he said, "all of it." I sent a contract through the same link I'd used at 3:18. He signed. The investor countersigned. The little confetti animation burst on my screen when the signature finished, digital and silly and sweet. My timer said 27 minutes left. "Okay," I said. "Now we rehearse the demo." We practiced telling the story in 3 beats, humble, clear, capable. Martin spoke first. He didn't read from a script. He looked straight at the camera like a person in a room. "Last night we learned we'd stretched our systems too thin. We fixed it. We brought back the right guardrails. Here, what we're putting in place so it doesn't happen again." Then Tyler with the demo clip. Then Noah with the calm line about the new ritual. Then Amelia with the talk about clients trusting honesty. The investor with the initials watched the whole thing and then said, "That was the best 5 minutes I've seen in months." He meant it. You can hear the difference in the quiet after a real compliment. The clock ticked, 6:12 a.m. "Before we end," I said, "one more thing." They all looked at me, some wary, some grateful, some simply tired. "You don't need a hero," I said. "Please don't turn me into one. Heroes make you lazy. You need habits. You need a floor you can't see and people who keep it oiled and strong. Respect them. Fund them. Thank them when nothing happens." Something like a smile moved through the grid, little agreements nodding in squares. On Tyler's screen, a small green banner blinked and then held. All systems operational. The room behind them brightened. The city outside my window became gold at the edges. My tea went cold. I didn't mind. "Okay," I said. "You're going to be fine. I'll send notes. We'll meet at 10, and then I'm going to take a nap." I went to click leave, but Martin spoke one more time. "Lena," he said. "Yes. Thank you," he said. "For floors, for hex codes, for the mirror." I smiled. "You're welcome," I said. "Take care of the boards." I clicked. The grid vanished. My living room reappeared, the plant by the window, the throw blanket on the couch, the kettle that had given up steaming hours ago. Silence came back, not empty this time, but earned. My phone buzzed once more. A text from Amelia. Dover wrote back, "We had a hiccup last week too. Thanks for the clarity, we appreciate you." She added a photo of the team in the boardroom, smiling, tired, not pretending. I set my phone down. I sat in the quiet. I thought about the little screwdriver in the drawer at the office and the note taped inside. For whoever cares enough to fix what squeaks. Maybe someone would read it today, maybe not. Either way, the squeak had been heard. Then I stood up and opened the window. Fresh air came in. I breathed it like a person who had just finished carrying something heavy up a hill and set it down. What happened next wasn't about systems. It was about choices, about promises and names and what you do when someone says we were wrong. It was about my answer when they asked for more than a retainer. It wasn't money I asked for. I slept for 2 hours, the deep kind that feels like the ocean took you in and put you back gently. When I woke, the city was awake too. The sky was a clean gray. My inbox had a link at the top, 10 a.m. follow-up. I made fresh tea. I sat up straight. I clicked. Faces again, but softer now. The fear had gone out of their eyes and left something better, attention. "Okay," I said, my voice warm and steady. "Before we talk tasks, I need one thing that isn't money." Silence. Then Martin leaned forward. "Name it." "A letter," I said. "Not fluffy, specific, signed. It should say what I built, what I led, and what we learned because of it. It will help me build my next thing. It will honor the work. And one more thing, an internal note to the team today with the same honesty. Not we faced challenges. Use the words we chose. We learned. We changed." Paula nodded. "Done," she said, and for the first time I believed her. "Good," I said. "Now here's how we keep this floor from cracking again." We wrote the plan in simple lines, the kind even a tired person could hold in their head. 2 admins for every critical tool. If one gets on a plane, the other can still unlock the door. Renewals on a shared calendar with alarms that scream 2 weeks ahead. Finance and ops both own it. The Monday ritual, 15 minutes, cameras on. What changed? What didn't? What did we learn? No blame, no theater, just look. A budget line called floor. Not a joke. A number you don't touch when a slide needs to look thin. Tools live here. Training lives here. Licenses live here. Ops seat at the table for decisions that touch the bones. If a deck says realignment, someone who knows wood is in the room. Tyler added one more line himself. Thank the quiet people when nothing happens. He said it shyly, like a confession. I smiled. Pin that, I told him. He did. Now, I said, I want to come in for one morning next week. Not to do the work, to bless the bones. I'll run the first Monday ritual, then I'm out. You'll run the rest. Martin agreed. We'll see you Tuesday, he said. There was relief in his voice and respect, too. The two together felt like a clean wind. The letter arrived that afternoon. It was good. It named the dashboards, the alerts, the promises tile, the maps. It named the lesson. We cut corners, we paid for it, we're done with that. I saved it in my after folder and felt a small, proud calm. Tuesday came. I wore a simple sweater and the kind of shoes you can stand in all day. The lobby guard waved like I had never left. The elevator hummed. The doors opened onto a floor that felt both familiar and new. Dot sat on Amelia's desk, greener than ever. She's dramatic, Amelia whispered like a secret. We laughed. The microwave squeaked, then didn't. Someone had oiled the hinge. I glanced at the storage closet door and wondered. In the conference room, people gathered in a wide circle. Ops, support, a couple from product, even one from sales who looked like he might bolt until he sat and put his phone face down. I wrote Monday ritual on the whiteboard and underlined it. Then I wrote 3 sentences. What changed? What didn't? What did we learn? We go around once, I said. Short answers, no fixing yet, just seeing. We did it, Tyler spoke plainly. Amelia told a tiny story about a client who thanked her for the honest status note. Noah admitted where he got lost and how he found his way back with the playbook. Paula said, I paused a renewal to save money. I won't do that again without talking here. She didn't justify. She didn't decorate. She let the truth stand without makeup. I nodded. That's it, that's the muscle. When it was done, I gave them one small gift. I pulled a label maker from my bag, my old one, the one that had printed names for cables and drawers and a dozen tiny things that kept hands from fumbling. For the new floor team, I said, setting it down. Label everything you love. There was a ripple of laughter, the kind that loosened shoulders. Noah stayed after. He hovered by the door like weather deciding if it would rain. Can I ask something? He said. Always, I said. How do you know when you're done for the day? It feels like there's always one more thing. I thought about 2:17 a.m. and the plan on my fridge and my mother's voice. You set a time, I said. You teach the building to respect it by keeping it yourself. You write down the next 3 steps and you leave. You come back and do them in the light. He nodded, serious like a vow. Okay, he hesitated, then smiled. I saved your hex codes. Keep them, I said. Make your own when you're ready. I walked to the storage closet. Old habit. The door opened with a soft click. The little screwdriver was gone from the back of the drawer. In its place was my note, folded open and signed under my line in messy handwriting. Used this today. Thanks. N. I let out a breath. I didn't know I'd been holding. The town hall was after lunch. People crowded into the big room. The pink lights had been replaced. Someone had listened. Martin stood at the front with no slides. He held a paper like a lifeline. He didn't read it. We made choices that looked smart on a spreadsheet and were foolish in a living system, he said. We cut the floor and asked people to dance. We're sorry. We're changing how we decide. Ops is in the room now. Training is not optional. Maintenance is not a lie we tell when we're scared. And we thank people for the weeks when nothing breaks because that means the work is working. He turned to me. For a second, the room felt like a theater waiting for applause. I shook my head lightly, a quiet signal, not a hero, a habit. He caught it. He nodded. We're grateful to Lena for building our system and for teaching us how to care for it. She's not coming back full-time, and we respect that. She'll help us build new habits and hire a full-time systems lead. We'll pay that person what the role is worth. There was a small cheer. You can hear the difference between politeness and relief. This was relief. In the weeks that followed, I kept my promise and my boundaries. I trained in daylight. I turned down the midnight texts with a friendly, firm line. See you at 9. I helped them interview candidates who had more practice than swagger. We hired Rhea, a woman with eyes that saw everything and hands that spoke in simple steps. She asked for a good salary and a budget for training. Paula blinked, then said, yes, and I nodded like the world had learned another new word. We built a floor fund in the budget. We put a sticky note on it that said, don't touch. We set up autopay on the corporate card for the critical tools and sent the receipts to the board without being asked. The Monday ritual stuck. At first it was awkward. Then it became a beat the building learned to dance to. People started saying, save it for Monday, and everyone understood. It didn't make problems vanish. There were still tough days, late days, days when a client asked for the moon and we had to say, we can build you a bridge instead. But the fear softened. The drama dropped. Quiet competence took the front row. The miracle was that there were fewer miracles. That's how you know the floor is holding. One afternoon, months later, I got a short email from Easton, the client who had expected their 6 a.m. update on the night of the storm. Renewed for 2 years, the subject said. The body was one sentence. We trust your operations. I forwarded it to Amelia with a line, put this on the wall. She sent back a photo of the note taped next to the promises tile. The green was still soft, the hex code still mine. Tyler changed too. He stopped running with a hose that wasn't connected and started checking the tap first. In a meeting, he said, let's ask ops, and no one made a joke about it. Paula learned to say, we'll budget for that, without flinching. The consultant with the perfect hair stopped talking and started taking notes. Maybe we all grew up a little. As for me, I built a small company with my name on the door and the words floors, not fireworks under it. I choose clients like I choose friends now, by how they treat their quiet people. I turn my phone off at night. I keep a list on my fridge, but the columns say something different. What matters? What can wait? I see my mother on Sundays. She asks if I'm taking care of my name. I tell her yes. Noah sends me a message every few weeks with a photo of a whiteboard full of arrows, or a desk with perfectly labeled cables, or a screenshot of a dashboard with a tiny change that makes it kinder. He signs them, and not drowning. I send back a small thumbs up and the words proud of you. That's enough. I went back once more, months later, just to deliver a final training and a hug. On my way out, I stood by the window and watched the city. The building behind me hummed the sound I love, steady, boring, alive. Martin came to stand beside me. "You were right," he said. "About floors, about truth." He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't hand me a bouquet. He didn't make a speech. He just stood there, quiet, like someone who had learned to listen for creaks. Here, what I learned, the part I carry like a stone in my pocket to turn over when I need reminding. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's a mirror you hold steady while the truth walks in on its own 2 feet. Boundaries are love. For yourself, for your work, for the people who will come after you. If you answer every midnight call, you teach the building to dial instead of plan. Cheap is expensive when it comes to the bones of a place. Pay for breaks. Pay for training. Pay for the quiet systems that keep you from pretending. Thank the people who keep nothing from happening. If you forget them, the floor will remind you what gravity feels like. If you're watching this with your own hurt, if someone replaced you with a cheaper copy and told you your magic was easy, hear me, it was. You built a floor. That's why they could dance. Take your hands away and let the boards speak. Keep your name clean. Keep your story kind. Make a plan and stick to it in the dark so you can live in the light. The night they called me at 2:17, I didn't answer because I wanted to watch them burn. I didn't answer because I wanted them to learn. And because I wanted to keep my promise to myself, I will let the truth turn on the lights. Now most nights at 2:17 my phone sleeps, so do I. The floors hold, the dashboards breathe, the city hums. Somewhere a kid with a too big backpack is learning the right words. I don't know yet. Somewhere a leader is writing a budget line called floor. And somewhere I'm at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, drawing 2 columns again, not for revenge this time, but for hope. What matters? What can wait? I set the pen down, I breathe, I smile. Because nothing is exploding. And that, my friends, is the sound of a happy ending.